When everybody else is pitching something or they're looking at something, right? And I had this conversation with you all the time. Hey guys, don't pay attention to what they're saying in a press release. Pay attention to this. You'll be able to decipher a little bit differently how certain things is being communicated with you so you can make a more informed decision. I'm teaching you how to think. I'm teaching you how to fish. I'm not telling you what fish are going to come. I may use my life and my situation as an example of what it is that I'm buying and sharing, and that's why I share on my brokerage account. Hey, I bought Ford today. Let me show you. Hey, I bought ASML today. Let me show you. Hey, I'm getting out of Zillow. Let me show you. They're going to crash. A week later, week and a half later, they absolutely destroy themselves. They're down 30% pre-market. My point is that I'm teaching you how to think based off of my real life experiences and all of the failures. You know, I was talking to somebody on a coaching call and they gave me a very, very good idea. They said, Anton, he asked me a question, and this particular person, you know, when I call y'all, because some of y'all are a part of the Patreon as far as the seat at the table, and I got scheduled times that I talk with y'all. And when I call y'all, sometimes, you know, some people give me an extensive report and then I drill down or whatever. But at the end, or for some people, they just come with the questions. They're like, Anton, I got this many questions for you with some stuff. Then we do a deep dive, right? And so one specific person that I was talking to yesterday, they said, Anton, I got a question for you. And it was one of the most interesting questions that somebody asked me. And I told them that I was going to have this conversation with you guys today based off of that question, because it allows me to do a little bit more of a deep dive and give you guys some insight on who I truly am, right? And they said, Anton, tell me about some of your failures, some of your failed businesses specifically. I said, that's a phenomenal question. And they said, what did you learn from them? I said, bro, I gotta have this conversation on the live tomorrow. Before I talk about this Travis Scott thing, before I talk about the Victim Olympics, I think I need to give people a deeper dive into my methods, into the methods of my madness and what has allowed me to be successful from a business perspective, right? I give y'all game when it comes to the executive level. I take y'all through some of my rental properties. I give y'all peeks into my brokerage account, my checking accounts. I give y'all insight into how it is that I live my life from a marriage perspective. But one thing that I have neglected in a large way to give you is some of the things that came along with my failures. Now, I will say, I like this. Look, that man extra baldy today. That's because I don't miss. Look, my beard gang is always done. Head is always shaved. I don't miss on nothing. I'm going to look good. I'm going to smell good. When I get into bed at night, my chick be like, oh my God, you smell like a snack. What does a snack smell like? I don't know. But for some reason, she be like, you smell like a snack. I want to bite you. Let's get back on task. But no, seriously, my failures, y'all. Because very few people will tell you about the failures. The only thing that you want to hear about is the successes. Nobody cares about your failures. Nobody cares when you F up. Nobody cares about that. They only want to hear about the failures when it comes after the successes. Don't nobody want to get advice from somebody that ain't lived it. Don't nobody want to get advice from somebody that's not a millionaire. You want to get it from the person that actually lived it and manifested it. And then you want to hear their story. Don't nobody want to take no advice from a bum. Fair enough. It's human nature. Right? Women in general want to be with the guy that the rest of the women want. Now, that don't mean that they necessarily have the confidence to exert that or to express that to them, but women inherently want the guy that other women want. And it's the same thing when it comes to finances, successes, all of that, right? Dope attract dope. Awesome attract awesome. Right? Success attract more success. And so when people are looking for an insight on how it is that they need to do things differently or how they live their life or what it is that it comes from, they don't want to hear about your sob story until they know that you overcame it. And so I think that it's a good conversation to have. One of the companies that I've started earlier in my life was I started like a newspaper company. I realized very early that there was a death coming in the newspaper industry and it was going to be upended. And so what I did was I tried to become the TMZ before TMZ was TMZ. And I said that I want to create this company that completely transitions away from physical newspaper and give people their news online. And so I created this company and I created the platform and I used my software engineering and my UX experience to create this company. And it was called Detroit Online. I remember it like it was yesterday. I remember the launch from it. I remember when it was in flight. Ultimately, I failed miserably because the amount of revenue that we were generating in order to try to sustain this thing was minimal compared to the amount of money that I was putting into it. And so I thought that, hey, I can grow it enough. I'm willing to take the loss short term in order to try to grow this company out, right? Online newspaper company. I'm going to grow this company out. I'm going to make it user friendly. I'm going to UX it. I'm going to make it mobile friendly because I know that everybody about to start using their phones or whatever. I really did have a great business plan. But what I didn't realize was that I had limited myself to a specific market that was already oversaturated with what people loved from other newspaper companies in it, right? The Metro Detroit area had millions of people, but my cap was here. And I would have to compete with other competing newspapers such as the Free Press, the Detroit Free Press, and the Detroit News, which they had combined services. So it was really one company with an infinite amount of resources that I was competing against. But I felt like I could take market share from them. Long story short, not only did I not take market share from them, but I hit a ceiling and then I started losing it and start going down and it started going down and down. And one of the most disheartening things that you ever going to have to do as a business owner is to walk away and shut down your company. I'm telling you right now. Everybody will sit here and tell you. I just had a conversation and the video was just released on the Lapeef Network of a conversation that I had with a woman and she was like, follow your dreams and all of this other type of stuff. But you don't know what it means to put 18 hours a day for the next 6 months into building out this platform and this company and hiring people and then saying, you know what, it didn't work. I gave it everything I got. How much money are you going to bleed before you start to walk away from it and be like, you know what, this didn't work for me? And that happened more times than you realize, right? So many ideas, so many different things that I tried to start and I tried to do. And some of them hit, some of them were successful. But the thing about it is that that success was short-lived because then you take that thing and you pour it into the other ideas that you have. And then so many of those fail along the way. This is the life of an entrepreneur and the life of a person that ultimately needs to become successful. But the learning lesson in these things is that you never truly lose. You never truly fail, right? I hear a quote all the time where people say, well, you don't fail. You learn what not to do. Yeah, that's true. But it hit a little bit differently when you actually walking away from an idea that you spent countless hours of your time and money and resources pouring into. This is facts. This is real life. You are going to start a business and most of you, for the most part, are going to fail miserably. It is not going to work. It's not. And for some of you that it does work and you become profitable, you're not necessarily going to be successful. You just create another job for yourself. Because the one thing that starting that online newspaper did for me is because it helped me to realize that I can't miss. Nobody cares about, like, we couldn't take Sundays off. Sunday was one of the biggest days for news to be released. We had to cover sports. We had to cover everything. And then we still hit a ceiling because we were limited by the market that we even named our company after. We called it Detroit Online. It was limited to the environment in which we surrounded ourselves by. We couldn't even not just compete against the other people that was in the market, the other newspaper companies. Right? We couldn't even push out into other aspects of the atmosphere in order to be able to tap into other markets or other people or, the other 450 million people in the United States. We were limited. Eventually, I created some other companies that were very, very successful, and I had an exit strategy, and I wound up selling it, right? Because I would see the writing on the wall. One of the companies that I also created was a mixtape company, right? Back way before even The Weeknd came out, before mixtapes was a big thing. I seen the writing on the wall because I knew that big record companies were going to start limiting the amount of money that mixtape companies were making. mixtape sites were making. So these artists was dropping mixtape sites or mixtapes on these sites. And what happened was the record company started getting hip because at first, you know, they wanted these artists to get hot on their own. But then when they got hot, they wanted to bring back their catalog that they was dropping to us mixtape sites. And they wanted to start monetizing that. Some of them never hit. Some of them did. Right? When Chris Brown had his whole fallout with Rihanna, he started dropping mixtapes. And that was a big moneymaker for us. The Weeknd's team had contacted us and say, yo, we had this new artist coming out. We want you to drop his mixtape. And we was one of the ones that dropped The Weeknd's first 3 mixtapes. The ones that he wound up bringing back and monetizing and he called Trilogy, right? Before there was like House of Balloons and all of that other type of stuff, right? But my point being is that we seen the writing on the wall. And one of the ways in which we created this company was that we designed it based off of the fact that we knew that everybody else in the mixtape gang had a decent site, but that people just wanted the music. They didn't have the greatest experience with the platform. They didn't have an app. It wasn't mobile friendly, all of this other type of stuff, right? And so we went through and we re-engineered everything. And we created a phenomenal platform. And when we started taking market share from them, because it was an easier way for people to be able to not only download, but consume music, you didn't have to download it to your phone or your iPod or whatever like that in order for you to listen to the music. You can stream it straight from our site. Right? When we started taking market share, a larger company took notice and then they made us an offer. We knew it was important to time ourselves perfectly because the industry was about to be upended. It was either going to get consolidated and the largest sites was going to be able to negotiate with the music companies to be able to release certain platforms and whatever. But for the most part, a lot of us was going to suffer. If we didn't adapt, we was going to suffer. So we made an exit strategy and we was able to sell the company successfully. And we made out like bandits. Eventually, what we anticipated came true, right? Once the mixtape industry had matured so much to where Drake had dropped, if you're reading this too late, that was originally supposed to be a mixtape. We seen the record company snatch that up and said, nah, that ain't no mixtape. That's going on sale. We like, yeah, the writing is on the wall. This is over. This is over. This is done. Whatever, so on and so forth. But my point is that there's a lot of lessons that came along with understanding how it is that we needed to move, specifically when it came to looking at things from a business perspective versus starting a business. It's a difference between starting a business and looking at things from a business perspective. When you look at it from a business perspective, you're able to hustle and make money off of anything. You're able to leverage what the resources are that you get in order to make more money, right? It's the reason why people that have these jobs that make a lot of money, they generate a lot of revenue, not less necessarily because it's necessary for them to start their own business or whatever, is because they understand the tax benefits. They understand that now I'm getting to the bag. I'm minimizing the amount of expenses that I have personally. And now I need to leverage this in order to pour more into myself because I know that if I don't, then the federal government is going to take it. And I'm incentivized because I understand how money works. They got exit strategies. They've started and failed at businesses. It's much easier for them to understand the marketing concepts and principles. We was on Google Ads. We was kicking it with Google Ads way before everybody else was up on Google Ads. We didn't care about AdSense. We cared about Google Ads because Google Ads allowed us to be able to target a demographic to be able to boost what our user base is. And then ultimately we had an exit strategy. Those same principles extended to when we started doing a restaurant business. When we got out of the restaurant business and then we became silent partners in other restaurants, we were able to lend that expertise over into these other restaurants. So what my point is that you are always inherently an entrepreneur, even when you move into the corporate executive ranks. You're taught to think a little bit differently. You've conditioned yourself to understand how money works a little bit differently. When everybody else is pitching something or they're looking at something, right? And I had this conversation with you all the time. Hey guys, don't pay attention to what they saying in a press release. Pay attention to this. You'll be able to decipher a little bit differently how certain things is being communicated with you so you can make a more informed decision. I'm teaching you how to think. I'm teaching you how to fish. I'm not telling you what fish are going to come. I may use my life and my situation as an example of what it is that I'm buying and sharing, and that's why I share on my brokerage account. Hey, I bought Ford today. Let me show you. Hey, I bought ASML today. Let me show you. Hey, I'm getting out of Zillow. Let me show you. They're going to crash. A week later, week and a half later, they absolutely destroy themselves. They're down 30% pre-market. My point is that I'm teaching you how to think based off of my real life experiences and all of the failures. All of the failures. The failures, literally. You may have 80 failures and 2 hits, but them 2 hits are massive and it's going to completely change your life. And then it's going to be other companies that you create that's less likely to fail as a result, right? You may have a 1 in 4 chance of this company winning, or a 1 in 4 chance of growing this company enough to where you have an exit strategy and you can sell it. And then you get to a point to where 2 out of every 3 companies that you create is absolutely awesome and they're going to take off. Because now you've learned, you understood, right? The things that I've learned, they can't teach you in a business school. They don't know what it's like to start a company and fail it from your own money, to put your own money up. They don't know nothing about that. They don't know what it's like to take $114,000 of your own money and build out your own restaurant. They don't know nothing about that. They can't teach you what I know in a book. It's impossible. And that's why when I talk so passionately. When I communicate with y'all and I help you to understand on how you need to look at things from a business perspective, it's easy for me to convey that to you in real world terms like a little bitty child, right? Because I've lived it. They regurgitating with you in these business schools on what it is that they read in a book. Most of these professors, they've never started or built anything, and that's why they teaching it to you. They went to school to teach it. Somebody else told them this is what you need to tell them, and this is why they're telling you what they're telling you. They don't teach you how to think. They're not helping you how to fish. They teaching you how to get a piece of paper so that you can lean on other people in order to try to get a job. It's a difference. When you got all of the tools in your tool case, you move a little bit differently, right? For any of you that was there for my but my investment series, and I broke down and I would say, hey, that app, I don't think that's going to work. This is why. I didn't just tell you what it didn't work. I showed you another app in the Patreon. Shout out to my Patreon members. Y'all know. I showed y'all in the Patreon. Okay, listen, not only will this is why I don't think it'll work. Let me show you also an app that I am building and why it's going to make more sense and what the marketing strategy is going to be a part of that. That's in the Patreon. Shout out to the Patreon members. It's in there. The point that I'm emphasizing to y'all is that y'all need to better understand exactly how it is that you want to move. How you think and look at money and looking at things from a business perspective is much different than looking at it from an entrepreneurial perspective. Anybody can start a business. Very few people understand how money works. Starting a business is just creating more jobs for yourself, which often at times is less profitable and it costs you more and it's going to take more of your time in order for you to nurture that thing.